remembering the story of the old lady in the house, I think that's incredibly useful. It's like a lot of us that tend towards, caring a lot, wanting to help. Um,
Mhm.
we the only way to switch us to be tough, to draw a hard line, to be, occasionally mean in the sense of it's not really mean, but we have to,
Mhm.
tap into that to
Yes.
get what needs to be done. Is we have to do it for other people, and we have to go, okay, like I can't, draw this line, but I can draw the line for someone else. and
Mhm.
and when we tap into that and remember it, like you said, it's like I'm not drawing the line necessarily for me, I'm drawing the line for them. And I
Yeah.
find, because I struggle with the same thing, and I find that's helpful.
Yeah.
um
All right.
how about I ask you one more question, and Brandon ask you one more
Yep.
question, and then after that we take a look at some of the comments and questions and see if we can answer some of those. How's that
Sure.
sound? Okay, all right. And Brandon, Brandominus, while we're doing this, come up with a master plan for how we're gonna sort through the questions.
Oh
How's that sound?
boy. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. So, I mean, this is sort of, along the lines of everything we've been talking about. Just like, what do you think are some of the biggest ways that your views on money have shifted as you've moved from where you were to where you are now? Because you're in a totally different situation, and you approach things totally differently. You have different questions pop into your mind when you solve a problem. What do you feel were some of the like biggest shifts in how you view money now versus before?
Is that for him or for me?
For you, investment joy.
Okay. No, because you said that and it's got out. The big thing is, I know for me, the money that I'm making now at this point, it's nice because it builds security. But I see money as time goes on. I see money much more as the reward for bringing a product or a service to the market that other people see value in. Money, the value of money is quantified in the value that you bring to other people. And so I have a real hard push and pull to quantify the value that I'm bringing to other people. And by that, I mean, I look at somebody, let's say, I don't know if you guys watch Meet Kevin. He was a
I
nice,
actually watched quite a few of his.
he's a
Yeah. I
nice
think I've heard of him.
I like him. And he
Yeah.
has one of the most perfectly monetized YouTube channels in all creation.
Yes, he
Um,
does.
if the numbers I heard right, he's made about between 12 and 16 million dollars this year off YouTube.
Yeah, it's astonishing.
But it's not just the YouTube ads, it's upsells and products and all these things. And he has this deal, and he said, let's do a 1 hour conference call and I'll record it with my camera for your records. It's only $29.95. $3,000 an hour is what he quantifies his time at. And I look at myself and I'm like, man, I'd do a lot for $5. I would, I'll do conference calls all the time for free. And it's like, I've done a conference call for an hour before, an hour and a half. I'm sure I could have done something more productive, but it seems kind of fun. And I have a difficult time trying to quantify what I do, the value it brings to other people, and then justify within my own mind, okay, what am I going to spend this money on? Because I want to do something productive with my money. I want to use my money for a greater purpose. And I just have this big push and pull at this stage, where I'm like, man, I've got to figure out, where is my overwhelming life goal and how much does it cost? So then I can figure out how long it's going to take for me to get there. That's kind of like my big push and pull at this point.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So my final question before we go to the chat is going to be, when we talk about accruing debt, taking on things that are going to take you a while to pay back. I mean, there's no way to just jump in for free for a lot of opportunities. what is, in your mind, the best way to take on debt in the safest way possible and make it back as fast as possible?
So like U.S. contract law is a very wonderful thing, and there are plenty of forms of debt that you can take on where you have no obligations to it whatsoever. Sure, you're going to pay through the nose on interest, but of the $1.5 million I'm in debt, I haven't personally signed on over $1 million of it. So I had this question at lunch today. They're like, so what happens to Brandon when Brandon dies? I said, well, my wife gets $1 million life insurance check from ladderlife.com. And then she can make a decision. Does she just want to declare, does she want my properties and all that debt to just kind of disappear? She has the option of doing that because I don't have personal obligations under most of those loans. And one of the people there was like, holy crap, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, I built value to the things that I was doing investment wise. I got an investor / partner to consent to it, and I'm not personally liable for it. So in those situations, I look at the risk and I'm like, the risk ain't too bad. I can, I don't even have to declare bankruptcy. I just have to give some paper, sign some quick claim deeds and hand them back to the investor and say, good luck, guys. And I'm in that position, so that quantifies the debt for me, a lot of the debt issues. But then again, I try and engineer on my own investments situations where I'm like, we could get really bad really quick, and I would be fine.
For sure.
It's like with coronavirus, I meet these people that are so over-levered, let's say for Airbnb. They do master lease. They do heavy master leases on their Airbnbs in high cost of living areas. They go and they take a $5,000 a month apartment. They lease it from a landlord. And then in their own math cycle, they can release the house on a daily rate equal to $10,000 a month after their primary call or their servicing costs are like cleaning and things like that. But they've signed a 1-year lease with a landlord. And that's a position I would just not get myself into because
that'd make me nervous in the middle of a boom.
Yeah. And I've talked to people and I'm like, well, what happens if they ban Airbnb in your town? That will never happen. Well, they did in Columbus, Ohio. That's not the most anti-business place in the world. Well, I'm not worried about that. And then we had coronavirus. And I mentioned it today. I had a pretty cool deal set up with Airbnb's influencer program pre-coronavirus. I was going to do a really cool Airbnb development series, do a ground up Airbnb. They were going to pay me some nice money to do it. And then all of a sudden I get a call from their brand development guy a week later and they're like, we're all getting fired. I was like, how do we go talking from these big numbers to where you don't have a job? This. And I'm like, this is crazy because I can lose half of my rental income and I can still stay afloat. I don't have to be cleaning gutters. And then I talk to people like, well, how do you get that? And I'm like, well, I tried not to overload on debt. I tried to build value to the properties in a cheap way. And, even then, I have this cool relationship with a lot of my investors where when we had the quarantine in Ohio, I want to say half of my investors called right off the bat and were like, Brandon, if you needed to stop paying us money for 6 months or 3 months or whatever they offered, just call us, let us know before the business gets in trouble.
Right.
We will go on a 6-month furlough on payments. I'm like, nope. And I haven't had to do that at all with any of my investors. I made a bonus payment to one during coronavirus as of today. And it's like one of those things where I'm like, I tried to prepare for this. And, in the grand scheme of business, these things have happened before. People say, well, we've never had a pandemic before. And I'm like, yeah, we had the Spanish flu. That happened. They filled up a theater in Southern Ohio to the ceiling with 9,000 dead bodies. That happened. And I can show you the physical place that happened down there because the theater's still there. It was the only place in Southern Ohio with an air conditioning system, and they used it as an impromptu morgue. It was bad. We had the Great Depression. We had World War II where rents got frozen. We've had we had race riots back in Columbus in 68, 69. I met people that were participating in those on various aspects of them. I'm like, we've gone through some scary times before, and everybody says if you don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I'm like, I can look at history in my real estate market and in business and what I see happen. I can try and make plans for those. And, one of the ways we prevent that's over levering ourselves and saying, well, what happens if income gets cut 30%? Well, Brandon's got to work more hours in the week, which is exactly what's happened to me. But is the business at risk of going under? No, it's not, because I can lose a lot more money and I'll still do okay.
Yeah. That's coming back to the one of the biggest hypocritical things I think that comes out of big companies like banks is that they're asking for bailouts during situations like this, but then will also throw people into the dirt and say you should have had a rainy day fund, right? So it's like, where was your rainy day fund, right? And that's about running a stable business that doesn't rely on government subsidy, if at all possible.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, because I mentioned today on my Discord, and I will talk about anything in my business. I got a fat check from the government today that I really didn't expect, and it's over coronavirus. And it wasn't triple P money. It wasn't triple P. It wasn't EIDL or anything like that. It's just that several of my tenants applied for rent relief from the local government administration. They mailed me some nice checks that I didn't know that were coming. And, I had one person on Discord like, you're taking that money, that's going to increase the cost of living for everybody else. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take it. Well, why? Because it's going to it's going to cause inflation. It's going to increase the cost of things. Really, why are you doing it? I was like, because my competitors have added an extra zero to it,
right?
And I have to compete with it, and I'm not happy about it. But once again, I cannot take the money that they've applied for. I did not apply for it; they did, and I just have to go cash the check. And it's just one of these weird things. We're in this thing where, I have to compete with the people that are doing extremely unscrupulous things at this time. The amount of lawsuits and people going to go to jail from EIDL and triple P fraud is going to be earth shattering.
Oh yeah,
based on the people that I know, But it's an interesting time. It's a really interesting time, because I know a couple people that they've crossed their T's, they've dotted their I's, they've done everything legally compliant within getting coronavirus assistance, and they are $1.5 million richer for it.